One of the first rappers in the UK to ever get a major record deal is now using his industry experiences to support and mentor some of Manchester's best artists and young creatives. This is Danny Fahey, founder of £30 Gentlemen.
You were talking before about the Oxford Road corridor being pivotal to your daily schedule, man. What does a day look like for Danny?
Yeah, no day is like really ever the same. It sounds like a proper mad cliche, but it kind of isn't. You know, there's always so much going on. There's so much on the board.
And then a lot of it's down. We've met in the refuge earlier on. That's your meet and drop-in centre in the mornings and stuff.
Yeah. If somebody wants to meet me about bullshit, or like a meeting about a meeting, or to like tell me how great their next mixtape is or whatever, like just if you can get out of bed to have the meeting about the meeting, you can have me from 8 o'clock. And if you can't get there, then I'm not interested. That's like my kind of like filter for seriousness.
The Manchester scene, particularly in hip hop and grime and stuff like that, is pretty booming at the moment. What's your interpretation of someone who's kind of sat in the middle of it in terms of how the Manchester scene is for that side?
I feel like there's an abundance of musical talent in Manchester, and it always has been. You know, I think the things that are different now is that there's like a real kind of democratization of the music business. You know, people don't need to have a record deal. You can just set up your own label. You know, granted, it goes into a sea of music, thousands of songs that are being released a day. So in some situations, maybe it's harder, but they still get to do it without permission. You know, and I think that democratization of the music business has just made the scene here like boom and flourish, you know.
I do think Manchester has got a big scene of people who are doing things their own way, and I do think it is why there is a big push.
There are lots of people that stand out, man. You know, you think about people like Full Stop and HMD, and obviously, you know, Children of Zeus, who are probably like the biggest act out of the city, you know, this year. Like, they're all over the world, you know, and these are all artists who have integrity and authenticity at the center of what they're doing. None of them are trying to be pop stars, you know. But in the same note, you know, when we talk about pop music, in lots of ways, I feel like we're in another Britpop bubble, and where the last big Britpop bubble was like Blur and Pulp and all of this other stuff, you needed a anti of that, and that was Oasis and stuff like that. Where now, you know, you've got Stormzy, you've got Giggs, you've got all of the young black male pop stars. Even though they're making the real music, they're pop stars. And in some ways, I feel like the biggest act in the world is going to come from Manchester as an antidote to this kind of new Britpop bubble that we're in. You know, that's what I really strongly believe, you know.
Some of the things that you're doing in terms of the artists that you work with, what are the specific things that you're helping them with, that you went through that process and you learned about, that you can now give them the platform to assist with?
I think one of the greatest things for us has been working with Slay, grime MC from Manchester. You know, when we started working with Slay about 2.5 years ago, just like starting out, helping him to kind of redevelop his offer as an artist and repurpose himself. And, you know, he's at the point now where actually, like, we don't manage him anymore because he's able to do it himself. You know, and that's kind of what it's all about. That's what it's always been about. But then we do some sort of like light touch stuff as well. So for example, artists like Sleazy F and Banco and some of the other artists have been in touch, and it's not necessarily like an official management capacity, but it might be like, do you know what, I've got a contract, I need somebody to help me make a bit of sense out of it. So there's those kind of things as well. So sometimes it's a bit light touch and kind of, you know, drop in carousel style type stuff versus like really official artist development. You know, same with the Mason Collective. Mason Collective, we manage their events rather than manage them as artists specifically. So when you see the crazy Mason big events, 1,000 people doing up madness, it's like us in the back holding it all together, pulling our hair out.
Being an uncle of the scene.
Uncling so hard, bro.
Because that's the challenge, because, you know, you got a talented artist, he's a young person who's just talented in their craft, and they're kicked out into the world of modern music, man, and it's a tough world to kind of negotiate your way around if you're a bit wet behind the ears, which, why wouldn't you be?
I think they have to get it wrong. I think they have to get it wrong. The best learning is through experience, and you can't get it right every single time. So when there are artists in the world who are, like you say, wet behind the ears, don't really know everything, you don't know what you don't know. So you have to go go through it. So, you know, it's sometimes I think young artists feel like they've failed if they've not got it right straight away.
Yeah.
You know, if they've not just like landed in a huge deal within the first year or 2 years, they feel like they've failed and stuff. I think it's okay to fail and get it wrong and not know what you're doing, really.
Yeah, yeah. It's better to have that approach than just assuming you know everything to start with.
Like even us as people with like lots and lots of years of experience, everybody's winging it. Nobody knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Nobody, not me, not you, nobody knows what's next. So it's okay to fuck it right up.
You go through life, I was...
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I was talking to someone about this the other day, because it's like, and you will always go through your life thinking, what if they find out it's only me? Because everyone's blagging it, man. I always have this image of like whoever becomes like the prime minister or the president, as soon as they get announced, they go backstage, and before they get shown all the alien files or whatever, they just stand there and be like, shit, I'm the president, man. Because like, what? Who let me do this?
Well, that's why these guys get old quick.
Yeah,
you know, you see like, you know, you see like the photos from the start of the presidency and the photos from the end, and you're like, yo, this has been a hard job, innit?
Well, this is why we're both gotta get rid of that. So you hide in the grey, man. That's it. So, how did you get into doing it in the first place? Obviously, coming from a musical background, it's how then going through to giving back to that demographic of young creatives and stuff is something that you can take your learnings and take on from there.
For me, it's probably about giving young creatives what I kind of didn't have.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not that I didn't have mentors in the creative industry. You know, I've had a career as a performer, I've had a career in the music business, but it's giving them something that maybe they're lacking or not getting from the institutions.
And then how does that manifest in terms of the kind of projects that you do to help give them that platform?
I mean, I think the flagship project for TPG as a business is the Grand Seminar. So it's an annual seminar for young people to come along and listen to horse's mouth kind of experience from people in the music business, people that they could hear who have maybe had similar experiences to themselves.
Yeah.
You know, where there's no fluff. It's not the Mickey Mouse version.
Yeah.
It's the real version. You know, it's people talking about success, people talking about failures, people talking about it being hard, people talking about luck, which is I think is the third component. You have talent, hard work, and luck is the third magic ingredient. You know, so it's people being able to talk in real terms to young people.
The Grind Beyond Borders was one that was a big project, and that was about taking Manchester artists and connecting with someone the other side of the world potentially.
Yeah, so, you know, it's kind of designed as a project to just connect grime artists specifically, you know, especially a couple of years ago when the project launched, you know, grime was having its real renaissance, you know, in England. But it came about as a kind of chance meeting. So I was at a festival just outside Prague called Hip Hop Camp, and somebody that I know, I bumped into out there, a guy called Tony Black, who he like works with lots and lots of talent. And he introduced me to a grime artist called Smack, who MCs in his own language. He's from Prague, MCs in Czech. And Smack is like a star where he's from, like a big star. So it just kind of made me go, do you know what? Like, our culture's huge. It's kind of important to connect some of the local artists with the rest of the world instead of just thinking that they have to go to London to make anything happen. So connecting Slay and Smack was great. We connected Sangi with an artist called Donna B from the Netherlands. We connected PK Bracco, who's a producer from Manchester, connected him with an MC from Tokyo called On Juicy. So PK went Tokyo, Sangi went to the Netherlands, Slay went to the Czech Republic. The idea is that they just have like the best experience as far away from home as possible, so that they can just understand their own power as creators where they're from.
So what's coming up, £30 Gentleman, what's next?
Obviously, TPG Grind Seminar. We're going to get as many young people down to the brickworks as we can. There's exhibitions happening as well in the space. And also we're doing some work with the JD group, who we've got some work ongoing with. And yeah, man, just working into 2020 nice and easy.
Yeah, making a difference. That's a bit. Right, well, nice one, mate. Appreciate
Respect,
it.
bro.
Cheers, man.